Thank you very much for listening to this week's talk based on the Sedra of Tetzaveh, and also pointing out the minor holiday of Purim Koton, which is this coming Friday, the 14th day of Adar, the first Adar that we are currently in. And we bring in these months of Adar, Mishenichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha, we increase in Simcha. And as we dedicate this learning to the speedy rescue of all of the hostages and the safety and security of all of the soldiers in the IDF guarding the land of Israel, the people of Israel all over the world, Jewish people all over the world. And we are perhaps feelings that simcha, that we normally translate as joy, is incongruous at the moment, and we are so far from it. But I think that we need to redefine and rethink the word simcha, because and especially at this point, we can access simcha by understanding that we have a mission and we are, please God, going to shine the light of truth, the light of Hashem, and bring Hashem's presence into this world. And even though at the moment we may feel that we are so far from actually experiencing that, but we have a mission, we must be steadfast, and just knowing that we are guided by Hashem, and it is up to us to do everything that we can to bring the prayers about that we are davening so fervently for, and this is our mission, and this is a source of our simcha and the confidence that Hashem has saved us in the past, and please God, we will be worthy of being saved, and we are just knowing what we have to do and carrying out, fulfilling that mission. And in that way, we can experience the simcha of emunah, of that faith in Hashem, and that faith in Hashem's connection to his people. And please God, all of our prayers will be answered, and we can get encouragement from the simcha of Adar, and it will help us, it will lift us up, and in this way we are going to be in a position to, please God, realize all of the aims and objectives of our prayers with Hashem's help, and we will see the Geula of Purim, which leads to the Geula of Pesach, and this is something that we can really hold on to and be uplifted by. And as we approach the Sedra of Tetzaveh, and in a non-leap year, that we have 7 leap years out of every 19, and so the remaining years are just with one Adar. And when there's just one Adar, we read the Sedra of Tetzaveh. Usually it will be the Shabbos before Purim, but in this year we have an extra month to go before Purim, and so the Purim to Saba connection is not something that we focus on, but the content of the Sedra of Tetzaveh is very much focused on Aaron and the Kohanim. And to the extent that Moshe Rabbeinu's name uniquely in this Sedra is not actually mentioned, although Hashem speaks to Moshe Rabbeinu, he says Va'ata Tetzaveh, and he's talking to Moshe Rabbeinu. But whereas the actual name Moshe is not used in this week's Sedra, Aaron's name is mentioned more than 30 times. And this is very much the spotlight on Aaron as Kohen Gadol, as the high priest, and on the Kohanim as well. And we might say, well, we don't at this point have the temple, and we might feel distant from all of the descriptions of the priestly garments, and there is tremendous relevance in terms of the way we are enjoined to be a holy nation and a kingdom of priests. So we actually look without usurping the priestly functions and wanting to actually carry out the jobs that are specifically assigned by Hashem to the Kohanim, we still have that status of priests, which really is a symbol for the most the most elevated teachers of the nation. That really was the function of the Kohanim. And it's fascinating to note that as recently as 1997 and 1998, genetic studies found that there are common genetic characteristics shared by all Kohanim. And one of the sort of reasons that these studies were undertaken is that a doctor by the name of Dr. Skorecki, who worked in a hospital in Toronto and also in the Rambam Hospital in Haifa. And he was praying and he was davening in a shul, and he was a Kohen of Ashkenazi descent, and there was also a Kohen of Sephardi descent. And he started wondering whether people from such different parts of the world shared a common genetic inheritance. And various genetic studies were carried out. One was reported in the journal Nature in 1997, and also studies carried out in 1998 from very respected universities. And they identified a gene that was shared by upwards of 80% of all the Kohanim that came forward for testing. And they called this gene the Cohen modal haplotype, CMH. And this is really something that shows the descent from a common ancestor for this huge percentage of all Kohanim. And so we see that we may not have at this point the rituals of the Bet HaMikdash and the clothing, but the existence of the priestly caste is something that has been discovered in the genetic markers in science. And so this is something that confirms the truth, that we needed to be confirmed by science, but it's just very interesting that the science did actually find these chromosomes and this common gene. But the extension of the principle of priesthood to everyone, and that we're referring to the entire nation, that is something that we see in certain daily activities that are very prosaic. The first is washing our hands first thing when we wake up in the morning. Natilat yadayim. This literally means raising of the hands. And there are a number of reasons that we do this, one of which is remembering the way that the Kohanim started. Before they were allowed to carry out their duties, they had to wash their hands. And we need to absorb that this was in a period thousands of years ago when hygiene was not what it is today, when this was not standard practice at all. I think that if I remember correctly, Queen Elizabeth had a bath once a year, and that was considered frequent. So the daily requirement that the Kohanim should wash their hands before they started working in the Mishkan, in the Bet HaMikdash, this was exceptional in the time. And this is something that we actually, one of the things for us to remember when we wash our hands every morning, that we are doing this and we are replicating, as it were, that sort of rhythm of the Kohanim before they started their service as part of their priestly duties. And the special halachot, the special laws that we observe when we do this, it's called the koach gavra, which means with a sort of significant energy or strength. And that is reflected in the fact that we take a special vessel designated for this purpose of washing our hands, and we take first with the left hand and we pour the water over the right hand. We then reverse it, with the right hand, we pour the water over the left hand, and we repeat that a total of 3 times. And in this action, in this particular process, we are assuming, we are stepping up to our role as a priest, that this is how I'm starting my day. I am starting my day, and so often when we are aware of reasons for doing something, it elevates what we're doing, and it helps to elevate ourselves. And this very simple start to the day, something that can become part of our lives with this very beautiful connection to the priests in the temple. And we are then almost as far as we can go, as far as we can be a priest. By doing that, that is exactly the status that we assume. For a relatively simple action and making the bracha al natilat yadayim, raising our hands, and this is something that can give our day a very special start. And that is one of the ways that we bring priestly activities into the whole nation, into our way of life. The second way that we bring that, and there are more, but the second way that we can bring it into our daily routine is when we say the morning blessing. Then we make a blessing on being busy with the Torah. It's called we call it the Ha'arevna. And as part of that prayer, at the conclusion of that prayer, we call it Birchat HaTorah, the blessing of the Torah. We say the priestly blessing, Yivarecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, Yor Hashem panov elecha v'chonecha, Yisa Hashem panov elecha v'yosem lecha shalom. And when we do that, we are actually bringing that priestly blessing that the Kohanim, who we said earlier, are actually identifiable. They're passed down, that patrilineal from their father, that connection, that chain, and they are the ones who are going to be called up in shul to give the priestly blessing. But every morning when we make this blessing over, we do this in advance of learning Torah, but actually it's very broad because it's being la'asok b'divrei Torah, to be busy with matters of Torah. And we can bring Torah into our lives when we're walking down the street, when we are in the market. And really this is one of the ideals, that Torah is not limited to study or to the study house. Torah is life. And when we look at the word Torah itself, we see that there's various other roots and words that are connected with Torah. One is light, or, and really by being connected to Torah, we are bringing light into the world. We are bringing the light of Hashem, which shines through his Torah. We are bringing that into the world. And there's also the root hora'ah, which means instruction. And we are spreading that special energy that we get from being busy with matters of Torah. We elevate ourselves, and we that is extended. There is a sphere of influence that goes beyond ourselves. We impact on our surroundings, and this, apart from elevating ourselves, we're actually elevating the world around us. And all of this, if we look at the priestly blessing itself, it's like an arc, because we start off on the ground, we start off at the lower level, but as we reflect on the 3 stages of the priestly blessing, there's Yivarecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. This is a blessing for material gifts from Hashem. And then we have Yo'eh Hashem panov elecha v'chonecha, that Hashem should shine his face and be gracious unto us. And this is going to a higher level. We're rising. And then we have Yisa Hashem panov elecha v'yosem lecha shalom. And we complete this circle, literally, that Hashem should raise his face towards us And when he places peace upon us, then this is connected to the concept of shlemus, which is perfection and full circle. And so we then come back down, because having had this transcendent, this priestly experience from the words of the priestly blessing that we, as it were, borrow every single morning from the Kohanim, but we are taking ourselves up higher, but we're bringing that height, that great level of inspiration back down to earth. In this way, we are bringing the potential of raising that the Kohanim have, that is described in this week's Zedra, and we are applying it to all parts of our nation. And in the merit of tuning into these very special frequencies, may all our prayers be answered, and may we take ourselves up higher and have that impact on everything and everyone around us. And please God, may all our prayers be answered, Latova, and we see, as we go towards the joyful months, 2 months this year of Adar, that we realize this special joy in Hashem's miraculous salvation and rescue of all of the hostages, and the success of the mission of defeating evil. Just like we saw that happened at the Purim story, we can take courage and inspiration, and Be'ezrat Hashem, with God's help, we will merit to see that in our time very speedily. Thank you very much for listening, and wishing everybody Shabbat Shalom.